All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to more Black Desert. My name is John, and one of the questions I've actually been getting a lot lately is farming worth it? So what I wanted to talk about was basically how to get started, what you should do, how do you go about doing it, and some tips that I can give to you. So I would say farming is one of those things you do not necessarily for profit, but it's for end game stuff, or I guess mid-tier stuff, like getting materials for tier 9 horses. A great way to actually get a lot of contribution points by byproducts, and you get like the fruits for alchemy and various things for cooking as well. So it's not like a high profit thing, but it's about getting materials to turn into more profit with another life skill. So let's talk about the basics of how it works. You can have 10 plots. Each plot is like one of these squares, right? And each square can like grow up to 10 things, so like 10 by 10, right? So how does this work? So each one you get is 10 contribution points, and I know as a new player, getting 100 contribution points is actually a lot. But trust me when I said when I first started the game, I didn't have 10. I actually just had like 5 or 4, and then every 10 CP I got, I just added another one. But nowadays, you can actually get 2 of them for free by doing quest lines, and I'm not exactly sure where it is, but I would recommend checking the suggested tab, and it should be something like farming or life skill, something around there, and you'll be able to find it. So just make sure to check over here in your suggested tab, and 2 of the quests, basically it gives you the same thing, like old moon ones, which are I guess what we could look at right here. So if you look at these clouds, old moon one, those are from the quest, and it'll save you 20 contribution points. So you're probably wondering, where do I get these fences from? Now I believe they are 2 different NPCs, right? So the place you get the old moon ones, which are farming, like, so there's a big plot, which is the regular ones, and then the old moon, which is smaller. They are effectively the same thing, but you can just make them in a smaller area. So is it really important? Not really, to be honest. So the old moon, oh, there's just an elephant in the building. All right, cool. So you talk to this old moon NPC right here, right? And then you'll be able to rent out up to 10 fences total, or 8 if you do the quests. And then you bring it to wherever you want to. So back in the day, I used to min-max the farms a lot more than I do now. And what you grow, like each kind of seed or crop, has a different grow time plus the location. So it's actually kind of like real life in a way of you managing where like everything is placed. But if you're just doing it as a casual thing just to get materials, ultimately it doesn't matter unless you're really on top of things. So here I have mine lined up, all of these. And as a new player, what should you do? Just stick them anywhere you want and start growing things. And then you look at this tab over here and it tells you how long your thing is. If you keep them past 100%, then basically you're letting them expire more or less. And whenever they hit 100%, you can harvest and grow them. So you'll see 2 icons over here, the leaf and like the shears thing. So they get bugs, and then the best way to get XP is by doing 10 by 10s. So I personally have magical strawberries on. Why? Because I just used the fruits on it. It's not really a big deal. But anyway, you could do this thing called like pruning and then harvesting. So pruning is where you get like various random materials, and then it'll give you more farming XP. So is XP important in farming? I think up until you get to Master 1, I believe, is when you can get the old moon fences. Is it really a big deal? Not really. But just look at it over here. So reduces the energy consumption, not a big deal at all. And increases speed for harvest. Again, also not a big deal. Basically, farming itself is an AFK activity. So now that we got that, you're probably asking, what should you grow? And ultimately, it depends on what you need. So, for example, if you do alchemy and cooking, you're probably looking at different fruits or various materials for cooking. And there's a lot of guides out there that tells you what you can do. Ultimately, what I would recommend to you guys is look for an item where you have a bottleneck of something and then start growing those if you can. And a lot of things you'll grow give you different kind of fruits, and these are very important later on at the end game or even mid tier, but mostly end game when you're crafting elixirs and stuff. So I think the ones that are pretty important are probably enchantment fruits, because these are required for going for tier 10 materials. Abundance is for various crystals that are important, and the rest of these are just like various elixirs. So it depends on what you want, right? So after that, you could just grow things for various fruits and seeds that it all doesn't really matter, just whatever you need. And some tips I can give you guys once you have all your farms down is you'll see over here in your garden, there'll be a tab where it says working. So if you have workers, similar to when you put workers on nodes, right? You could put them on your fence to auto prune for you. The downside of doing that is you don't get the XP that you would do if you were to manually do it. However, if you're like AFK and they're pruning, like you'll see the little health bar or whatever timer bar. Sometimes it'll turn red. That means you can prune it. And if you have a worker on it, they auto prune it. So it slows down the growth when it turns red. And what you basically want to do is keep it yellow at all times. So I personally have workers on mine, just because I'm kind of lazy, but you'll know it'll be like grayed out if you don't have a worker on it. And the way you do that is basically, I'm pretty sure you just hit the button and then start setting it there. Otherwise, you can manually like place a worker, and then it's the same thing as like all these workers and stuff. So if you have it, you have it. And I have videos on my node setups and everything, so you can see exactly how I allocate everything. And yeah, so one thing that's important is up until generally master rank is the point when I guess it doesn't matter. And once you get master, you can make old moon fences, which are basically smaller fences. Also, again, it really doesn't matter either. So I feel like farming, it's a lot of money if you know how to turn it into money, because it's not like, here, I'm gonna grind an hour, just make 1 billion silver. Farming is like growing the thing, step 1, and step 2, turning those materials into profit. So it's like a multi thing, but it's more of an AFK thing. So it is pretty decent money. Also depends on what you grow and if you're on top of it, like if you're pruning every time it hits 100 and reharvesting everything. So overall, I hope that helped you. It's just like a basic activity that people have been asking me, how do you go about doing it? When should you start doing it? And the answer is whenever you think you have enough CP. I would definitely recommend doing the quest line to get at least the 2 free fences. So at least everyone can have something going on. And then whenever you think you can invest another like 80 CP or 10 at a time is when you should go about doing it. And then you could always just check your things. I believe this thing, I don't actually look at this often, but it's like, if you look at the temperatures and like, this is something I guarantee you, like 99% of people don't use or don't even know this exists. So like you can see humidity, temperature, groundwater, and like I think this is actually a broken thing that's been like in this game for over 7 years, and I legit never really look at it. But one thing I would actually look at is probably temperature and humidity, because some of these actually affect like the growth of your like crops growing speed. And if you're really just leaving it on, it doesn't really matter. It's only for really the hardcore farmers and something to look at. So keep that in mind. A lot of this is pretty obvious even without looking at it. It's like humidity. Are you growing something in the desert? Obviously it's going to be hotter in the desert than it is next to trees and water, or like it's just real life. But anyway, Place things generally where you think is most accessible to you. So like I just put mine in Heidel because it's near like town and I can just dump stuff off. I know a lot of people place their farms like around here near Velia just because it's right there and there's like a lot of flat land. So ultimately where you place it, it does matter to an extent, but most people don't actually care that much. And yeah, I don't think it's something really worth looking into because farming, as I said before, it's good, but it's like a multi-step process good. So anyway, once again, quick tips I can give to you guys: grow things that are bottlenecks to you. So like, let's say you need 5 ingredients for cooking, and one thing that's hard for you to get, start growing that one. And or if you're alchemy, pick the one that gives you the correct fruit that you use a lot, because these are pretty much sold out on the market at all times, and the only way for you to get them is by magical seeds. And what magical seeds are is when you harvest, you get these things, mysterious seeds, and you turn them into like that plus the seed for alchemy, and it turns them into big one, which gives more fruits. And yeah, that's about it. So ultimately, farming is easy, mostly an AFK activity, and just whenever you think you should, where you want to start it, just start it. But this is a quest line where you can get 2 of them for free, and I would just definitely recommend doing that one. So with that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this quick video. It's not something that most people really think of doing in this game, but if you're wondering how are people getting all these tier 9 horses and how do you get the materials if they're all sold out on the market, well, that's how you get the what are these? You get the blush leaves from like harvesting the thing and resetting, and then you can exchange it for a contribution or the stonetail fodder, which is used for tier 9 materials and everything. So personally, I would recommend doing a lot of this in contribution because it'll allow you to get more like CP and to get more farms or whatever. But if you need the stonetail fodder, it's fine too. That's what I used to do back in the day before I got all my horses. And yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. If you're new to your channel, hit that subscribe button. I would love to see you guys come back. We usually do a lot of stuff for new players, returning players, and people who are just looking to get better at the game in general. So hopefully, if you're interested, I'll see you guys around again. And I'm out. Peace.